Hey everybody, welcome back. Glad to see everybody here to episode 6. We are already basically halfway through our first season. So first off, we want to start like we do every week. Got Howard's blend, you know what I'm saying? We got to shout Howard out, get that protein. And I also want to give a shout out. You know, if y'all don't already have a copy, get a copy of the book Fear, Forget Everything and Reset. Proceeds from the book go to the Mary Kemp Foundation. We don't keep any profit from the book Fear. We donate all the proceeds to the Mary Kemp Foundation. That's right. So check it out. This whiteboard, you're going to start to see it's going to start to fill up. So we moved it out even more. Every time we have an accomplishment or we reach a benchmark or something like that, we're going to put it up on the board live real time once a week. So we broke 40,000 views. We kind of like crushed it. So every time we hit a numerical goal or some sort of benchmark for us, we're going to go ahead and do that. And we're going to start at the corners and bring the more important ones in. So I'm just going to pick a random corner. 40,000 views. Thank y'all for tuning in. Y'all are a part of that. All right. So you're going to start to see the board get more and more full as we go. Next up, we're going to go to the rules. So we have our 3 rules like always. The first rule, if you want to check in with us, just be mindful of what you say or what you type. And if you want to call in, just be mindful of your background noise. I'm waiting for somebody to actually jump in on a call, but we've been doing pretty good every week with our guests. And the last but not least, have fun and participate. And last week y'all killed it. It was actually 2 comments per minute. So we had over 80 comments last time. So I'm expecting the same type of turnout. And then with that, we're gonna jump right in. So I want to start with a quote from the Bible real quick. Matthew 19:24. I could read it out loud if you like, right? It's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of God. All right? If you wouldn't mind, just write down what that means to you. What do you think it means, or why, or whatever it is? It's all up to interpretation. There's no wrong answer. We'll take 30 seconds for you guys to get your thoughts together on this one. And as you're formulating your answers and you're formulating your thoughts and you're getting your sentences together, I'd like to share a story that led to today's podcast, right? Today's show, right? The Busy Money Cast, a podcast for entrepreneurs. Not too long ago, money doesn't buy you a free ticket into heaven. Okay, I love that interpretation. Thank you, Rick, for your answer. As they come up, I'll share them. Let me share this story first, because it kind of led me to think about this Bible quote and what it means, and people's opinions on money and morality, basically. So we purchased a property, or I purchased a property, and it was an investment property, of course, right? And we had a tenant, and one of the tenants is mentally disabled. He's a 40-year-old male, and I believe he's paranoid schizophrenic. And I've known this tenant for 5 years, dealing with this property in different ways. And the police, just to give you some stats, in 2022, the police have been called to his address, I want to say, over 40 times. not by myself, by the tenants in the front, by the neighbors, by the people across the street, by contractors. This person's had the police called on him over 40 times to that address. Now, I was put in a situation to where I tried to work with him personally, and he got violent. He was also violent with other workers, contractors, and even threatened the tenant in the front, who's a single mom with basically a 6-year-old young lady. So then the question came down to, because I didn't want him to be homeless, and I've known him and I've known his mom for so many years. The question was, if I evict him, where is he going to end up? And it was a really, really troublesome question. This is not my first rodeo in real estate. I've done tons of evictions. Not that I'm bragging, but sometimes it's easier to evict certain people than others. But for this person, it was troubling, because up until the point where he started becoming physically aggressive and basically assaulting people, all the other things that he was doing, I kind of let it roll off my back. So there's this question of, at what point do you have to choose money over, I guess, being human? I still don't, it's still something that I think about. So that's what led to this discussion today. And if anybody wants to weigh in on that, would you evict this person? All right, Marvel Universe, thank you for tuning in. This is in response to the Bible quote. So basically, greed. Exactly. So at one point, does the person make a decision based on money or morality? And for me, it was, it was a tough decision, because I had to think about the people in the front, their safety, the crew's safety, and everybody else's. So, unfortunately, I had to make a decision, and also this person paid their rent on the first every month. So as far as business goes, a great tenant. So you can feel free to chime in, right? And I'm getting a lot of that's tough, and I appreciate that, because sometimes I think it's kind of simple, but sometimes it's rough. And these are the things I want you to consider as you become an entrepreneur, or as you start to invest, or if you're reading headlines in the paper, because sometimes it's so cut and dry, and people say things like, businesses get away with this, or capitalist this, or capitalist that. And they make terrible decisions. They close the factory, they fired 1,000 people, there's layoffs, they have enough money. And as somebody that's been on both sides of that conversation, it's not always as easy to make a decision when it's your property, when you're the one dealing with police reports, when it's your insurance, when it's your job to protect your tenants and to protect the crews that you hired to do maintenance and repairs. So with that, I wanted to have somebody to come in and join this debate. This brother has been somebody who's been integral in helping with homelessness. He's somebody I was able to meet a few years ago at a seminar where we were trying to work on homelessness and combat homelessness in Killeen. He donates his own funds from his own business. He gives his time. He works with the Killeen Police Department just like I do. And again, somebody who I think you can have an alternate opinion. And it looks like he's about to come on here in a second. So my man JJ is about to log in real quick. And JJ, whenever you're ready, you could pop up, and then we'll add you to the discussion. All right. JJ, whenever you're ready, you could pop up, and then we'll add you to the discussion. You just have to lower your background on the second window.
Okay, we're good.
All right. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you for making some time, brother. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me, brother.
All right. So, morality. Now, you're a businessman. Um, you're not from Killeen originally.
Correct.
Where are you from originally?
I'm from LA originally, Los Angeles, California. So
Okay. So now you
let's say LA, Los Angeles, because everybody's from Louisiana here too. So LA.
All right. So you're from LA, from Los Angeles, City of Angels. So now you transplant over to Central Texas. You end up in Killeen. You have a thriving business. Why do you choose to donate your time and money to a community that we know is high poverty? Why settle here? What about Killeen is it that does it for you?
Well, for us, it was really weird, right? Sometimes you believe that everything happens for a reason, and for us, it was kind of like this became our second home. Um, when I first landed here, we had lost everything. It was 2008. We had lost everything in LA. So we had lost our jobs, repoed our cars, home was gone. We were living with my sister at the time. And so we were in a 1-bedroom apartment shared with my sister. And my wife was pregnant at the time. So I was like, yo, we got to look for an opportunity somewhere else. LA is too much. And in that time, my sister was being based here in Fort Hood. So she was like, yo, come on down. The prices here are a lot cheaper. Everything's a lot better. You could get back on your feet here. And so when I got here, again, I was living with her for like the first 2 weeks, got to the Killeen Mall, and I was wearing one of those Smokey the Bear hats, working as a security guard, making $7.25 an hour. All night. That was night shift. I worked there all by myself all night long. And it was just from California making $25, $30 an hour to coming here at $7.25. It was very, very humbling. And but with that, we were able to get back on our feet and not staying at that $7.25 mentality. It was, yes, I'm here for the moment, but that's not where I'm going to stay. And within a matter of months, we were already working somewhere else. Within a matter of a year, we were working at Apple. So it's just kind of like continued to escalate. My wife continued to go to school. She went to UT. She started working at UT. And so I think the main thing was just kind of like we adapted to the city, and it means so much to us because it did give us a second opportunity at getting everything we have now.
Okay. So you work very closely with the Killeen Police Department.
Correct.
And Officer Moore, who for everybody in Killeen, he's like a celebrity. Officer Moore is definitely a celebrity. But for the people who are out of Killeen or out of Texas, how do you help Officer Moore and the homeless outreach team, which is the division Officer Moore works for in the KPD?
So throughout the years, we've kind of done a little bit of different things. As it is right now, actively right now, is only doing deposit assistance. So he gets somebody that's moving into an apartment. You know, we already know it's already hard enough when you're out there living in a shelter coming in, let alone come up with the rent. But you're also going to have, you know, your electricity deposit. You're going to have your, you know, internet deposit, you know, with Spectrum or whoever. If you owe them money, you're going to have a big deposit. And so what we do is we take care of those deposits for them so they could get in, get their electricity, get their Wi-Fi, get their insurance they need. We take care of all of the deposits so they don't have to worry about the first month. They can just build their way up.
All right, and that's a gem because a lot of times you hear people saying like, well, I don't make so much, I don't have so much money, but in reality, sometimes it's an application fee.
Yeah.
That's $25, or like you said, a deposit for the lights, $99 or $59, and you can change a family's life by giving them that opportunity with a negligible amount. Now, JG does this over years and over time, and there's an accumulation, but something under $100, you could make the difference in a family's opportunities to get into a rental unit.
Absolutely. I mean, I think sometimes when we're well off or we don't have to worry about so much about the little fees, we kind of like, they don't matter to us. So it's like, oh, Netflix went from $14.99 to $17.99. Well, no big issue, right? But there is some people in our population that those little things do add up, right? A lot of people require renter's insurance. That's $5 to $10 a month to most people, not a big issue. But to somebody that's on a fixed income or on a part-time $7.25 an hour, it makes a huge difference every month to be paying that $10 plus the gas goes up plus this. So I think being able to understand that all these little things do add up and being able to facilitate some of that stress when they're first moving in kind of gives them that confidence of like, I have a team of people behind me willing to help me. I'm not going to let them down, kind of a thing. So you push a little bit harder for that.
All right, yeah, I appreciate that, and that's true. Knowing that people care enough to help see you through, and there's all these other programs and whatnot. But I appreciate you because you don't have to do it. It's not like you work for an agency and like you choose to do this and you choose to make time and you choose to volunteer. So I just want to give you your flowers. You know what I'm saying? Like publicly while you're here.
No, and I, the reason is I didn't like the politics with all the organizations, and I think not. Because of that, I don't like all the politics, all the fighting. They all get government funding, so they're all competing each other. Using my own money and using my own resources, I don't need to ask anybody for permission. If somebody deserves the opportunity, they're going to get it. And the only person I really, well, there's two. Officer Moore is the one that he has my cell phone. He could call me directly and be like, yo, I need this, and he got it. But the second is Salvation Army. So we have Salvation Army, and that's through the whole state of Texas. So we do the same thing for Salvation Army. Anytime there's somebody that they're placing in a home, we also pay their deposits as well. So those are the two that we use the most. But on a personal level, is more like Officer Moore. I mean, that's our guy. So
okay, now we just put up that quote. I didn't know if you wanted to weigh in on it or not, or your own spin. I'd like to share my spin on it as well. And also thank you for everybody for sharing their opinion on that. But so it's Matthew 19:24. Right? It's a famous quote, right? Basically. So what's your take on this?
I actually wrote it down.
Okay, I didn't see it. I apologize.
I think to me it's more of a just being giving, right? So I think that one of the main things is we can all win. And if we help each other out and we win as a society, we win as a family, there's nothing wrong with that. And I think sometimes we kind of get in between that, the messages mixed up a little bit. But I think understanding that it's going to be difficult to do it alone, in my opinion. It's just you're going to need people. And it's not wrong to have money. It's not wrong to build. You went to school, you worked your way up, you got what you needed to do, or you didn't even go to school, but you worked hard to get to where you want to be, and giving other people that opportunity, maybe that you were not even given. I think it could make you feel so good, and I think that that's where we need to go towards, is just everybody winning.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I agree with everybody's take. This is my take on that quote. So you have the visual, right? Like a camel going through an eye of a needle. It's like it's impossible, right? Like that's something that's never going to happen. So to me, it's saying that basically it's impossible for a rich person to ever make it into heaven, and why would that be? Because of greed. Because in order, there's a perception. I don't, it's my take on it, that there's a perception that in order to build wealth or in order to amass riches, that at some point you have to do something immoral, or at some point you have to hurt somebody. And as time goes on, it's like things are getting easier for us, right? So we're receiving these blessings. And then sometimes I'm like, man, is it like at what cost? So that story, I mean, man, this is 4 or 5 months, and I'm still thinking about this tenant because I'm like, did I make the right decision? And I'm like, if it was my daughter or if it was my wife, or would I want someone who's physically able to like hurt them, who's not in the right mind? He doesn't take his medicine or all of these things. Like, did I make the right decision? So it's just something I don't know. This is like catharsis for me. So it bothers me still. I'm not gonna lie, it does. You're on mute. You're on mute. Try this. Try to come out and then come back in. Don't worry about it. Just come off and then let me see something real fast. Hold on.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it was on mute. No problem. So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So I think we all have those moments where we feel there, and it's I want to say I don't want to misquote it, but there was something to do with the fact of we. Man, I don't want to misquote it.
Go ahead, man. It's cool. We could always retract it or edit it.
Yeah,
Say what you gotta say.
I'm trying
Don't
to
worry
remember
about it.
But it's kind of like we are not. We can't be afraid of success, and sometimes we kind of second guess ourselves if what we are doing is moral, right? But at the same time, I think both me and you, we had that conversation not too long ago, right? And we've all had those people that we've helped, and we put a lot of money and effort, and sometimes not even just the money, but the time and the effort that, the phone call the phone won't stop ringing with opportunities for you to help somebody, right? But we've had so many people take advantage of that. And so I think that on one side is, yes, we have to help people, but at the same time, we have to be responsible with what God is giving us. So if God is blessing us, and my biggest prayer is, God bless me to be a blessing. So I have to give it forward. I cannot keep it. So if the phone rings, even if it's the last money I have in my pocket or in my hand, I'm going to hand it over, because that's what my prayer is. So I'm going to pay that forward 100% of the time. So there's that balance of, I have to be respectful with God's money that he's giving me, but at the same time, I want to give without feeling some type of way because this person did me wrong. Everybody else is going to do me wrong. And I can't change my heart because one person was not in the right mindset and doesn't deserve that, So my thing is always that prayer of understanding, like, I might not agree with why God told me to give them that money, but I'm going to give it to them. And then I'm going to be like, dang, God, you better teach me what happened here, because I don't get it,
Right.
But now if I have to say no to somebody, normally I pray with my wife about it. And if I'm like, yo, I can't, or I don't feel comfortable, normally she's the one that checks me. She's the one that's like, look, if your heart's telling you no, it's probably because of a reason, and you should stop those funds from going that direction. So, in business, there's always going to be that pushback from them, but you have to be protective of God's wealth. I mean, he's giving it to you, and he wants you to manage it correctly. And if it is going to be on you if you don't manage it correctly.
So where do you get your moral compass from? Is this something that you developed? I know you shared the story about coming here and having a second opportunity. Was it that? Was it something before? Was it something you've seen? Or how does that look? And this is why I want to say this, because like I really like to shine the light on people that don't like. It's not like JJ's on Instagram every day showing him giving like people $20, but like there's no posts about it. No. He's in meetings. He's in rooms that nobody wants to go to. I've been in some of those same rooms and was like, the same thing. Politics a lot of times really kills it, which is unfortunate. But that being said, so you do this, no cameras, no lights, no pictures, none of it. Like nobody would ever know. So you're not doing it for the sake of doing. You're not doing it. You're doing it because it's the right thing to do. It's something in you. Where does that come from?
I think just being mindful that there is people, and I mean, once you do it once, it gets very addicting. It's very addicting. I don't have an addictive personality per se, but it's very addicting to be a blessing for other people that need it. I grew up in the church, so I mean, we go back. I grew up in church, so my brother's a pastor. Grew up in church, kind of constantly going in church. So it's there. But I think more than anything, is kind of like my dad was an immigrant, and we've always been grateful for the opportunities this country provides. And sometimes there's that, we can go into politics and religion, and that could go wrong. So we leave it that. But, it's just my dad was always very grateful for every opportunity, and I think that he ran his own business. So he was working for LAX, working as a janitor, and he's like, you know what? Nah, I'm gonna go open my own business. So he went on his own, door knocking people like, hey, I'll clean your building, I'll clean your building, I'll clean your building. And he always worked for himself. For as long as I can remember, he always worked for himself, and he always, I talked to you before, third grade, education, but he believed in himself, and if you believe in yourself and you go out there and you have a grateful heart and you're willing to give back and you're willing to open doors for people, you're always going to have a net that you can throw out there and something's going to catch, So I think that's where I got it from. It's kind of like not scared of being an entrepreneur, not scared of going to invest anywhere, because if you're doing things the right way, it's going to come back to you. So I guess that's the way I got to it here in Killeen. The homeless shelter actually shut down because of mismanagement of funds. So the shelter shut down. Everybody that was in the shelter now, women, kids, pregnant women, everybody was out on the street from one moment to the next, right? So hundreds of people out on the streets immediately. So my wife called me up. I was in Dallas and said, hey, you need to stop by and you need to go help out, figure it out. So that's pretty much all I did. I showed up down there with a check, and I was like, who am I making this check to? And they were like, nobody's here. There's nobody here. So city leaders and officials and everybody would just show up for being on camera. I'm here, but nobody had ideas. Nobody went. And, you were there with us. So we went to a bunch of meetings, and it was always about the name of our business or the name of our organization. This organization donated so much, and I want my little banner to be on this thing so I could get publicity. And to me, it was always like, no, that's not, that defeats the whole purpose, in my opinion. So I was just like, no, that's not the way I want to do it. So many times there was a lot of interviews because we were getting a lot of homeless off the street and paying for their deposits in apartments and just doing it out of my own pocket because I moved faster. I mean, we were moving 2 to 3 people in a week. Well, the organizations were taking a week, so unless you were a veteran, you were in the back of the line. If you're a veteran, there's no reason other than lack of education that there's so many programs out here to help you get you right back on your feet. But yeah, we were able to go out there and help, and there was so much buzz about getting me on TV and interviews, and I was like, that's not me. That's not what I do it for.
And I appreciate that, because a lot of these things come up naturally. Like everything we're doing is just like real experiences that I feel like you can't readily get access to, like on the internet. Like everybody will say like, oh, this is how you make $1 million, or this is how you do that. But nobody really has like this kind of conversation. Like, what is it going to be like at night? The lifestyle changes, this, that, and the third. So I'm going to do this real quick because I have another question for you, but I want to give the audience an opportunity. So as always, Howard's Blend, plant-based protein. Make sure y'all check him out and get your orders up. If you want a free sample, all you got to do is just send us a message. I'll send it out to you free of charge. All we need is your address. That being said, and also remember, get a copy of the book Fear. Proceeds from that book gets donated to the Mary Kemp Foundation, and that goes back to local schools. So if anybody has a question, drop a comment, drop a question. And for JJ, while we have him, you know what I'm saying, you can ask JJ any questions you want to ask, or if you have a question for me, you feel free. So I want to share one more thing. And then, I'll take your opinion on this. And then if nobody has questions, you share your contacts, and then we appreciate you for your time. But I want to share one more. So it wasn't the first building. I think it might have been. It was either the first or the second building I've ever been a part of or purchased. It was here in Killeen, and it was about 5 years ago, give or take. and I took over the building. So for people that don't know, sometimes you get vacant units, sometimes you get full units, sometimes whatever it is, it depends on the property. So this woman had been living in the unit several years, we'll say like over 5 years. So if you know, one of these little tips for people who want to become landlords is, if you have a good tenant, you don't raise their rent more than you need to. If you have a good tenant, it's better to have that nice steady income than to try to hit market rent and then have the turnover. It's not a good idea. So this woman had been there, so naturally her rent had fell behind what market was. I believe at the time market rent was like $550. I think she was paying something like $325. But what people don't understand is, like, when I purchased the building or when I took the mortgage, if I was getting $325 times 4, let's call it $1,000, and my mortgage is $1,100, I can't afford to pay my mortgage, right? Like, I'm losing money. So I needed to make the $550 in order to cover maintenance, property tax, my mortgage, and also recoup my investment, right? So why was this story important? Because this is the first time I was ever put in a position to have to evict somebody. But I didn't get like somebody who was delinquent 6 months, somebody who was like selling drugs. Like, I got the worst possible scenario. And like, it's messed up, but it 5 years later, I still think about it. So this woman was in her 60s. She just beat cancer. She couldn't work. She's on a fixed income. The previous owner put her on month to month. And then I inherited that person. And she was the nicest, like the nicest person you could meet. But I couldn't afford to lose that money. And why I'm making sure that people know that this is 5 years ago. 5 years ago, I was planning my exit strategy from teaching, from retirement. So it's not like I had, money or whatever. It was a regular job. I'm a working class person. I have a young daughter. You know what I'm saying? So like, I really need that money. It's not like, maybe right now I'm in a better position. Like, I needed that money, and I had to like evict her. And she had nowhere to go and nobody wanted to take her. She didn't have a job. And so I want to ask y'all again, because some of the people in here was like, you should keep her. You got it. So air it out now. We're going to share your comments publicly. What do you do in that situation when you have to evict someone because their rent doesn't cover your bills?
So me, I'm a sucker. I would have kept probably as long as I could, and I'm sure you did too, because you're the same. So I'm sure. But again, we go back to the same thing: lack of organizations spending their money wisely on educating us. Where are they? Because had we had a contact with Salvation Army, we could pick up that phone and be like, yo, this one's deserving, yo. And we can plug her in with Salvation Army. And they told you, like, listen, we're going to pay the extra $200 monthly for another 2 years. Boom. By then, maybe she gets back on her feet, can start working. Cool. And they do that. But the point is, who do we call, right? There's so many websites and there's so many links, so many phone numbers. Poor old lady can never find that information, right? There's not a commercial coming out blasting out during halftime, yo, call us if you need help, because then their phone will never stop, right? So it's kind of weird that they're here and they have to get rid of that money, because if not, they don't get no more next year. So they have to get rid of it, but yet they don't want a flood of calls. So they're just like, if you don't hear about us, then whatever, but there's so many organizations in Killeen itself or Central Texas itself that are more than willing to pick up that tab for a year or 2 years and say, hey, we're going to help them out. There's churches in the area that are willing to do it. Again, it's just being able to have those connections. And that's where it's very important for us to keep in contact with Officer Moore or everybody else in the industry that's like, pick up the call or text them and be like, yo, I have this lady. What do you think? And most of the time, Officer Moore is he has the beat really well here. So he can tell me like, hey, this organization has money. Don't tell them I told you.
Right.
They kind of know who has it right now. and we can go in that direction. But yeah, I personally on my end, I would have done it maybe 3-4 months, and then that's it. I'm sorry, I need the money.
Yeah, it ended up taking about that long because that wasn't somebody that I wanted to evict. Like if my memory serves me correctly, she wasn't evicted. And I also want to be completely honest. I believe that the TAA, right? Like with how Lisa Marie and you and I, how we all kind of like met, was I was trying to find her help because like I felt bad. Like I was like, oh man, this is so because all four units ended up leaving, right? Like I had to do what I had to do, but it is what it is. But the other people was like, okay, they knew it was coming. This woman was just sick, so I ended up finding help and trying and meeting you and Kyle and Lisa Marie and all of these other people and Kelly Van and to try to find a way to help her. And I believe we were able to get her something. I think her rent was $375, something like that. We was able to get her something $425. She had to downsize from a 2-bedroom to a 1-bedroom, whatever. But she wasn't.
Everybody's willing to do that.
Yeah, she wasn't homeless. And the same thing like the other gentleman. I just want to make sure I get that out there too. That in his situation, I took months, and I know the eviction process. Like I've never lost an eviction in Texas, or ever. I've never lost an eviction. I could have got him out in 30 days. I strung that along about 6 months. And Lisa Marie, Lisa Marie, some people, she was on last week. We called and we called and we asked Kyle and we called and we called. And the situation with him, and for anybody else who's dealing with mental illness, especially with adults, sometimes it's hard. He refused to take his medicine. His mom couldn't check him in anywhere because he was an adult, so he was allowed to leave. So we're talking about years and years of exhausting help. And like you said, there aren't facilities, there aren't places where he could go. There just isn't the money. Killeen is a city, but I mean, like I call it a town. It's not. You're from a city. I'm from a city.
Yeah.
There's not even 200,000 people here. Yeah. But anyway, we tried our best, and the rest is just that's up to somebody else to make sure that he had a place to go. But that being said, I want to thank you again for your time. Is there anything you want to share? Anything you want to add? Anything you want to touch on before you share your contacts? Before we let you enjoy the rest of your evening?
Nah, I mean, you know me. I'm just here, so I don't like to put too much information. The people that have my contact, and the people that don't, they'll either get them one day or they won't.
Right. Well, what we are going to share your website. It's in the write up right now. And again, I want to thank you for coming out, brother. And we'll continue to work. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes
I still need to go pick up my hoodie, so we're definitely.
Yeah. Let me know that it's right here.
I know.
It's right here.
Make it down there.
Yeah. So maybe this week we'll meet up and we'll talk. And I really appreciate you. And if nobody else says thank you, I know you don't do it for this. If nobody else says thank you, bro, I appreciate you. I've seen the work, and we need more like you.
Appreciate it, man.
All right. Thank you for tuning in.
Yep.
And thank you everybody else for tuning in. I appreciate y'all. Again, like y'all can't see what I see backstage or maybe whatever. And I'm just seeing this ticker of all these people tuning in. That number's getting higher and higher every week. And that's because of y'all. And thank you for the support, and thank you for tuning in always. And like I said, I got plenty. Where is it at? I got these samples. We got samples. Make sure if you didn't get one or you want one or whatever, get that Howard's blend. It's delicious. I've been posting my shakes because of this. I've been eating better and making sure I've been hitting my protein more. So with that, I want to say peace to everybody. Thank you for tuning in. There's another great episode, and I'll see y'all soon. Have a good night.